Yeah.
I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won.
Yeah.
I hope my team they won.
Yeah. Man.
I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won.
Yeah.
I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, as well as A.D. Drew. Charles, how's it going this morning, this first Sunday morning in the football season as we get things going?
Yeah, I mean, it was an awesome day yesterday, and I can't wait to get into it. Got my morning coffee, got my morning veggie juice, and Dabo Swinney is somewhere sick. It is a great Sunday morning for me.
I did hear a little something about that, but there might be another sick person. Mike, how you doing this morning?
Well, damn, not as good as Charles, but I damn sure have my coffee. It was not. It was a good day in terms of football, but in terms of how things ended out, I guess we'll get into that. So I'm gonna need an extra cup in between the breaks to deal with this heartbreak or whatever. But that's why you love it. It's a great weekend, great football, great stuff on the field. So I look forward to talking about it.
Yeah, it sounds like you might be pouring something else in your coffee as well. A.D. Drew, I know you moving around.
That's why it's a black cup.
A.D. Drew, I know you moving around to try to make things work, so we appreciate you finding a way to get in here on this first Sunday morning of 2024. How are you?
First of all, I want to say for everybody who's either traveling to Miami, Ohio, or Montgomery, Alabama today, be safe out there on that road if you're going to one of those games today. Number two, I'm doing great, Doc. You know, it's how can I put this? You know, Doc, it's disappointing as a professor when you give people the cheat sheet and the study guide, and people still fail the test because I was getting text on yesterday asking me where to watch this game at and what time this team play and all that stuff. And you guys saw part of the chat in the one group that we're in. I'm like, damn, obviously y'all didn't read the article that I wrote last week about where to watch and when. So it's disappointing. I gave you the answers and you still failed the quiz.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough, Drew. When you do all that work and you do all the execution as you thinking this, find out that they weren't listening. You're like, what? And the giving more pain is we talked about it on the Tuesday show. We talked about it on the Thursday show. We talked about it on the Saturday morning game time before everything kicked off. So we had multiple platforms and we shared it there. We told them where to go to the website. We put the link. So you're right. We gave the cheat sheets, the PowerPoint, the notes, and still it didn't work out. So this is when you come in like me and had that crash session and you go kind of tickle your fingers on your students and be like, y'all better wake up. Y'all won't do this again.
I told you what was going to be on the test. Y'all don't believe it.
Exactly.
Right? Everything that was going to be on the test.
That's right. You're going to get this F squared in your life. That's right. Tell them about it, Charles. Huh?
Yeah, that F squared is real. It really is.
Well, let me give you these scores of the top 7 programs that played yesterday in regards to the final scores. We'll do it for the Division II programs. NIA programs don't start the next week. Then we'll take a quick break. We'll get in on the other side, and we have one of our first coaching interviews of this early season, and we talk about that on the other side. Let me give these scores first. We had number 2 Florida A&M with another huge come from behind as they defeat South Carolina State Bulldogs. The Rattlers improved to 2-0 on the early season, while the Bulldogs fall to 0-1, 22-18. Jackson State played on Thursday night, and they fall to 0-1 as they lost to the ULM Warhawks, who are 1-0, and that score was 30-14. That game was 14-14 in the second half before it kind of fell apart. And number 4, the Howard Bison, who also played on Saturday, fell to 0-1, lost to Rutgers Scarlet Knights, who are 1-0, 44-7, with the coach of the Bisons being concerned with a late score he thought that took place by Rutgers. You have number 6, the Morgan State Bears. They defeat Hampton, number 16 in my overall preseason index, 30-28. Pirates scored a late touchdown, but it was not enough, as the Morgan State Bears are 1-0. Division II wise, you have number 1 Virginia Union that just put a beat down on the Thoroughbreds. Virginia Union, the Panthers improved to 1-0. Thoroughbreds are down to 0-1. 69-7 was the score, and that was on HBCU Go. Number 4, the Panthers of Clark Atlanta University, that I told everybody to keep their eyes on. Road win at number 7, Fort Valley State, who are 0-1, both in overall and conference records, 45-42. Clark Atlanta was really pulling away from them in the second half. The Wildcats had a vaunted push late, but it was not to do. So we see all that in terms of on the griot, and the rat poison that was put out there worked well in terms of getting this done. I'll take full credit for that. Just kidding. At number 5, Miles Golden Bears, they fall 0-1. They lose a tough one. The West Alabama Tigers, 16-15. With that, let's take our first break. We'll come back on the other side, and we'll have our segment with our first coach surprise to get you on. And you'll find out who that is after this break. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
At AutoMasters LLC, our mission is to serve our community by providing quality automobiles at affordable prices. All of our vehicles are inspected and certified to offer you the confidence in knowing you have a quality vehicle. Our goal is to provide you with a seamless process and positive experience for your automobile purchase. Financing recommendations and specific vehicle inquiries are available at your request. You can find us at www.automasters06.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Also, please feel free to contact Terrence Miles at 601-927-7794. And oh yeah, tell him Sonia sent you.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gonna teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab, and our guest is none other than the first-year coach, if you would, of the Clark Atlanta University Panthers, Coach Teddy Keaton. Let me say welcome to the show, and congratulations on the win, Coach.
Good morning, guys, and thank you for having me.
It is certainly my pleasure. As we get in here and talk a little bit about the game, it wouldn't be us if we didn't get a chance to kind of tease you and rib you a little bit. So hopefully I get a little credit for this wild somebody out there or some group out there does this poll ranking. I don't know where they come from, where they get all these computers, but they had you number 4, and it came this little controversy in terms of rat poison that was out there. So I hope for the rats cleared up and staying away.
Well, obviously, when you take a team that's 0-10 and you get a ranking and put a target on their back at that high of a ranking, and you just put us on notice with everybody in the league. They came ready for me. So, I told my team it's rat poison. Don't believe none of that. You're not that good. You need to work and continue to stay focused on what we're trying to do here and not get over, too full of themselves.
Yeah, Charles said that appropriately. He's like, man, how dare you put a ranking on Coach? He's like, look, I'm trying to stay under the radar. I got some big plans over here. What are you doing? Mike was a little bit about that too, and he said, all right, Coach, I got it.
I mean, that's a setup for failure. I mean, they posted it in the locker room, and they had plenty of motivation to tell their team that, they ranked them here. You better go out there and do A, B, C, D, and E. Those are bulletin board type materials. So I didn't want any of that, not knowing much about the team. We're learning players every day, trying to figure out what fits where. And I tell people all the time, winning is a habit and so is losing. And when you're in a culture of losing, sometimes billboard material will make them think that they have arrived. Even a win will help make them think that they have arrived. They need to understand, how to prepare, how to fight adversity, how to, come in and know that now the world is on notice now. After Saturday, I'm sure that everybody in the world woke up and saw that, David Wright's a for real player. Those receivers are really good. The O-line can protect him. We got some areas we need to work in, and I do know that. But for anytime you can sneak in and go into a place like Fort Valley, that's a hostile environment. It's at 1:00 in the middle of the day. It's just all the things. We went down 14, and being able to overcome that. Losing programs will find a way to lose. I was proud of my young men after being down 14 and actually fighting back and never giving up and keep going through. And I was very proud of those guys.
With that being said, I just want to say I thank you for being frank with us. Oftentimes we get coaches and they do the proverbial coach speak, which is their right. But the fact that you wanted to get out there and you understand and you give us a little insight to say, hey, coaches oftentimes do use these things for bulletin board material in regards to trying to motivate their team. Which is it's a great experience for our listeners to really get that thought process. So I appreciate it, as we said, joking through it, that you shared that perspective. That meant everything for us. With that being said, I think in some ways this is kind of the perfect victory, if there's ever such a thing, where you show that you had ability to play some good football, got kind of close at the end. You can go talk about some of the things that you said in regards to working on how to get better. I'm going to let Charles jump in here and ask the first question, if you don't mind, Coach.
Well, first and foremost, Coach, congratulations on the win yesterday. But I think for me, the $1 million question is going into this first game. And you mentioned a losing program coming into this season. But culturally, what did you go in and sort of do with regards to moving this here, moving that there, to sort of change the face of this program coming into this game?
Well, we did a lot of evaluating. They do what every good, I like to call myself a general manager, CEO. You're running a company. And the first thing you got to do is you got to evaluate the company, where the pitfall's at. And you got to balance, find the people in the organization that can help you. Find the people in the organization that need to get off. And we did that. That's what we did. I didn't cut one soul when I got here. I just evaluated the team, and I put them through winter workouts. I evaluated how they pushed themselves and what would take to break them. What would it take to break them? And we pushed them as hard as we could. And I never had to cut anybody because the ones who didn't really want to work, they left on their own. And as they left, we just started figuring out who we needed to go fit. And we had a mindset that we needed to be older and we needed to grow up faster. We needed to get better in certain areas. The O-line was always a particular point that we knew that was bad. We knew the linebacking core was not a really good group of guys because you can look at the stats. The stats tell a lot of things about a team. But I knew they had some good skilled players in certain areas, and we just kind of built around that. And then when we got hit back in fall camp, I brought in a couple speakers, and we let those guys. We do some what we call mental conditioning. As you'll see it in the documentary that we're kind of putting together here at Clark Atlanta University. I think that football is not only played physically; it's also played in the mind. And to change a culture of losing takes a real. It's more than me. It's going to take changing the organization from the equipment managers to the locker room, the way the AD and everybody else thinks. I mean, you would be amazed. We went to church and I took all my kids to church, and that's like a big thing for me that they go and the pastor say, you've been losers. You guys are losers. That hurts there. When you go to the cafeteria and the cafeteria workers, they say you're a loser. When you go and see the maintenance people and you ask them, could you do such and such for me? And they say, you guys are losers. That really resonated with me. And I reminded my team every day that nobody on this campus believes you can win. You're losers to them. I never let them, forget the fact. Even when I spoke at the Love of CAU, I pissed off a lot of alumni. And I showed them the history of losing. Sometimes we have to take it all off and strip down to our bare minimum to understand where we really at and figure out how we gonna grow up from there.
That's fascinating insight, Coach. Thanks.
Mike, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, Coach Keaton, I echo CB's congratulations on a terrific start, but more so, congratulations on the approach to cultural change. I mean, I sit here and listen to you speak, and some of what you say you can apply to the business. I mean, to other genres of life. So I tip my hat. So my follow-up question is, you're starting to get to the organization from a cultural standpoint. But one of the next steps when you're making a cultural change is how do you get them to bite onto the recipe? All right, I got your attention. Here's the recipe. Here's the path. Here's the vision I got. How do you get folks to now accept that and own it as part of that cultural change?
Well, we try to talk about this term that we use in our organization called keep the main thing the main thing. So everything that we're doing, we control what we can control. We be where our feet at every day and understand we're trying to go 1-0 every day. We have 24 hours. Everybody have those 24 hours. How we use those 24 hours. Winning just don't happen on Saturday or Thursday or Friday or Sunday. It happens every day. It's continuous habits that we have to create in order for us to understand that when it gets to, I tell you kids, if you practice and you work hard every day, when it gets to the game, it's just practice to you. It's just somebody else out there giving it. And that's the mindset that we try to put in our kids. And, we tell the players, see a little, see a lot, see nothing. So we focus in on small things, focusing on those things like for 5 seconds, dominate your box, dominate your area, do what you're supposed to do your job. Don't worry about what everything else. We definitely say don't watch the scoreboard. We're going to just keep playing because the game is trying to teach somebody how to finish. I heard a sermon from Pastor T.D. Jakes, and he talked about they don't give crowns to people who start stuff. They give crowns to people who know how to finish. And we talked about that. And we find those snippets, anything to motivate them that's going to take them to another level. It's important that we pour into our young men. It's important that they understand that life is a big part of adversity. It's just a series of failures. And every time you get back up, you got to be able to get back up, dust yourself off, and move on from. And even when you're winning, you got to have an approach to every week. Like, okay, we're done now. That Fort Valley's in the books. We'll learn from the mistakes we made. We'll correct those things. And now we got to move on to Allen. We can't sit back here and celebrate here and then get back next week and flop.
Exactly, Coach. I like that framework. And as Mike said, you can use it in a
Thank you,
lot of
Coach.
part of life. I try to use it in the classroom as a professor. Great points. I'm going to have to pick your brain on a couple of more of those quotes. And motivating factors. I know it. I know it. 80 Drew, go ahead and follow up with your question, please.
I also want to give you a congratulations, Coach, on the first victory for Clark Atlanta in two seasons. And while my guys are focusing on the philosophical aspect of coaching, I want to get back to that game on the field yesterday, Coach. Gave up two touchdowns early due to issues on special teams, and not using proper English, but I'm gonna say this: the math ain't mathing, because David Wright threw for 7 touchdowns, but you only had 45 points due to some special teams issues. So let's talk about those special teams, because if there's one area of opportunity for you going from week 1 to week 2, from a fan's point of view, it has to be your special teams, Coach.
There's no doubt about it. And let me be honest with myself. We were so busy trying to get when you got to go on the road, you can only travel with 58 players. So from camp to them 14 to 20 days you got before you play, a game, you got to find the right 58 to get on that bus to play on your offense and your defense. So when you was doing that, we spent a little bit too much time, dealing with that. And I think that special teams got to kind of set back to the side a little bit. We had to use all areas of the special teams, and it showed up when you play a great team. We had to use the hands team at the end of the game. We had to use the punt team. We had to use a trick punt that moved to get a first down, so we could keep the game going. So we had to do a fake. Then we had 2 bad snaps. Those things are something we got to work on. But, going on the road with your 58 and trying to go into an environment, you had to try to pick those best 58. So special teams only got about a week and a half of good work, and it still wasn't enough. And you got a freshman kicker, a freshman long snapper, and both of them playing in a game of Fort Valley. I mean, if you go to Fort Valley, Albany State, Tuskegee, the blue bloods of our conference, and you got that as the first game, and this team has notoriously I'm talking about drizzled by these teams. I mean, you got to think that still resonates in some of those kids' minds. Last year, I think Fort Valley beat them really bad. So just to get them to change their mindset and approach, when we went down 14, it really was, to me, as a coach, I was like, okay, let's see what they do. So what, now what? Let's see what they do now. Let's see how they respond to this. Let's see how well they keep fighting and seeing if my message is getting across to them. And it did. So they, when the kickers, we try not to be, I tell the coaches, don't be negative with the kids. Pat him on the head and keep him focused so that he can do what he needs to do. Yes, we got some work to do there. To get a win in a place like that, with all the special teams that we had to pull out, and we got a block kick, those things we got to work on, and it's order, because that's the weakness. When Allen pulls up the film, or when they get to see us play, they're gonna feel like, oh, we got an edge on them. We can try to beat them in their special team there.
Can I ask a quick follow up, Doc?
We're right up against it. Go ahead, make it quick.
It's gonna be a quick follow up. You talk about having to reach deep down when you're down 14-0, but let's talk about at the end of the game when you were up, I believe, 16, 17, or whatever. It was 29-45 was the score. And then Fort Valley starts mounting the comeback against you. Talk about having to hold on there at the end of the game there, Coach.
Well, it's the same thing with winning and losing. I mean, you got to teach kids how to finish. You got to learn how to finish. I mean, when you got to kill a net with a sledgehammer. And sometimes the kids don't understand that. We're up now. They get relaxed, and it's just like when you in life. When you get up, people don't understand when it gets to the top. Sometimes it's harder to stay at the top than it was to get to the top. And when you get to the top, you got to continue to keep bringing it. And I think some of the kids got lax, and they thought that, the game is over. We done won. They celebrated in their mind, thinking about where I'm going to do after the game. And Fort Valley is a championship caliber team. So guess what they did? They did what I thought they were going to do. They weren't going to lay down for you. Losing teams do that, but winning teams gonna figure out find a way to win. And I think they took it all the way down to the wire. My hat goes off to Sean Gibbs. He is an excellent football coach. He does a tremendous job of preparing his kids. KD is probably one of the best quarterbacks next to David Wright in this conference. Basing off what happened last year, he's a winner. He plays like a winner. They got players just like everybody else. Number 7 was a beast. I don't know who he is, but he had his day yesterday. and you got a guy like that on the field to throw the ball to. I mean, hey, we got to continue to play the next play.
Oh, I love it, Coach. Great question, Drew. I'm glad you got that one in there. As we get to let you go, I know you got a busy day, and we appreciate your time. Rocky Miller says, Coach, confidence and belief is contagious, and I have to agree with him. Charles and I had a chance to interview you during the SIAC Media Day in Atlanta over there at the College Football Hall of Fame, and I automatically knew. I saw because of Drew told us to keep an eye on you in terms of Allen, but after that dialogue, I was like, yeah, they'll be all right. They're going to be good sooner than later, and they're going to catch some folks. So I just wanted to say congratulations. I'll send you a picture. I'll let you know how much that I'm supporting that, and I'll put it on the show before the end of it. But I'll send a picture and let you know that, at least on my side, I feel very comfortable in terms of saying that the Clark Atlanta Panthers are going to be reckoned with in terms of that. So, but don't get too mad in terms of the poll ranking that comes out this week.
Here we go with the
he gonna hit that thing with a sledge.
Don't call it exterminated yet, Coach. We got to put a little bit more noise in that.
I got enough problems. I'm going back to a place that I started from the ground up. A lot of people love and respect me there. I love and respect them there. But they on the schedule. They got to line up just like everybody else, and we're going to do the best we can do. And it's no hard feelings. I love Allen University. The people at Allen University really embraced me. You know how many times I went to Columbia, South Carolina, and never knew Allen University existed? It was right across the street from the field. But to go over and meet some good home people and good Christian folks that really believed in what they were doing. It was 200 students there, and I just love those guys. I love Allen, and it's going to be a heart-filled place to go back. Those kids showed up at the game, and one of the young students had on a shirt with my picture on it, and I was like, wow. They were at the Fort Valley game, and I'm like, look, this is going to be heartful come this Saturday when we play them at Panther Stadium on our new red turf.
Certainly, and I agree with that. I hate going to say it again, rat poison. That close went around.
I agree with Chuck. The red field is different. I mean, it took us a minute to get used to.
Oh man, Coach, we're gonna keep up with you throughout the year, no matter what goes on. So we'd love to have you back, particularly if we can get a couple of more of these wins. We'll find a way to bring you back on.
Thank you.
To talk about how much work is going in to changing the landscape. You said this earlier. You said we have everything we need here at Clark Atlanta University. We can win. And you showed it from day one that it's going to be a lot more of that. And certainly look forward to this matchup that you said with Allen. It should be a good one. But I want to say thank you, Coach, for your time. And we will see you around. And as I said, I'll send you a text and let me know what your thoughts on it. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, and I appreciate you guys. Go Panthers.
Go Panthers.
Thank you, Coach.
We'll be right back after this break.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never, ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
Hey, grab me one, too.
Charmin Ultra Soft has so much cushiony softness, it's hard for your family to remember they can use less.
Sweet pillows of softness.
This is soft.
Holy Charmin. Oh, excuse me. Roll it back, everybody. Sorry.
Charmin Ultra Soft is so cushiony soft, you'll want more, but it's so absorbent, you can use less, so it's always worth it.
Now, what did we learn about using less?
You gotta roll it back, everybody.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Ville's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, and none other than A.D. Drew. Gentlemen, I told you I was going to surprise him. Give him a little shout out. You know, I was going to do the little Clark Atlanta. You know, I had the hats for all the listeners that I already got. So if you have a victory you want me to show up for your team wearing a hat, send them over this way. I got a couple of them, as you see over here. And we'll get it on that Sunday edition. What do you think, Charles?
Doc, you got that old school Oscar Gamble look there with the fro popping out from the cap. I like that.
Yeah, those baseball fans out there, y'all know what's up with that.
Yeah.
Let's get into some of these matchups that took place yesterday. I'm going to go with you, Mike, first. Obviously, you were there live. You saw the Prairie View A&M game against Texas Southern University at Prairie View. Texas Southern was able to get that victory that kept Prairie View out of the end zone. Prairie View did score 9 points, but as you might imagine, they were all on field goals. Mike, what was your thoughts of that matchup?
Well, obviously, as a Panther fan, I'm disappointed, but as a journalist, an objective journalist, yeah, I mean, you had to be disappointed with Prairie View's effort. You watched the first half. Their offensive line, they were getting manhandled at the offensive line. They couldn't have a sustainable drive that led to a touchdown. I think one of their best drives came when they switched quarterbacks in the second half, went all the way down the field, but yet ended up with just 3 points. So, that was my takeaway is, what's going to work on the offensive scheme? How are they going to execute to get tangible points meaning touchdowns. The other thing is, they got a heck of a schedule coming up. Who's going to be the quarterback now, going forward? They have some good plays or whatever. They had some dropped passes in the and wide open passes where the tight end, I think he had 3 or 4 drops. So they got some questions to answer. That's my second takeaway. First, who's going to be quarterback? Second, how are you going to answer a lot of these questions? And third, the offensive line seemed to do a little bit better, but, you're kind of concerned. On the other side, you have to be surprised with TSU. Texas Southern's a lot better than there were some players. I was like, where did this player come from? I guess the Ronald Green, the running back. Oh my goodness. I mean, he was a battering ram. I think he had CB 2 touchdowns. I know you had a lot of the stats, but I was really surprised at how they were able to at times march up and down the field. So those are some of my takeaways. I got a lot going through my head, but you also have to tip your head up to the Chris Dishman and the TSU Tigers on a well played game.
Charles, I'm gonna follow up with you with that same game. You were there in a media perspective, so you really got to catch it on. You had some great post game interviews. Or make sure we'll get some of that on later this week, so we can edit them and get them to the appropriate place. But what were your thoughts going through the game, and then certainly based on the post game with the championship trophy presentation? Well, I saw you got some good pictures with the board, AD VP Granger, Dr. Granger, I should say, and Coach Dishman himself. What were your thoughts?
I think the thing that jumps out, and I'm going to echo Mike's sentiment, was Texas Southern won in the trenches. When you stop and take a look at it, they rushed for 163 yards on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, they limited Prairie View to only 21 yards net rushing. That jumped out at me. with regards to that. They also was able to get to the quarterback. They got 5 sacks on the night. So the fact that they were more physical than Prairie View, that kind of blew me away. And I think the mindset is right at Texas Southern. And one of the things that I heard, in the midst of the post-game celebration, because it was a true celebration, it was a transformational win for them. But the big thing was a couple of the players made sure, and it's the senior leadership on the team, made sure that they wanted everybody to know, put it in perspective. It's just game 1. We want to continue to allow for this win to really sprout roots. And I think that was the big thing that really caught my ear last night, because, if you're a Texas Southern fan, shout out to Diane Weber. I mean, you hadn't beaten Prairie View in forever and a day. And to not be caught up in the emotion of that was something that really caught my ear last night. But that's a tremendous win. I think that's a win not too many people had checked off with regards to Texas Southern knocking out Prairie View.
That's a great point. Tremendous win. They got Southern next conference game, I should say. And they can find themselves in a really good pole position as they continue this season. 80 Drew, I'm going to flip it on you. I want to go to Tallahassee. Tallahassee, the FAMU Rattlers, like something about that second half, that fourth quarter, particularly in this matchup, where they had what I thought was a tremendous comeback win. I know some people may be frustrating that they're not necessarily beating up on teams, but many people that watched this game knew that South Carolina State Bulldogs, if you allow me, we talk about this in some ways, old MEAC rivalry, one of the shortest distance where the teams travel back and forth. Obviously, I know Bethune-Cookman is shorter, but that game is played in the classic format. But between South Carolina State and Bulldogs, and I told everybody on the Saturday edition of Game Time, when you think about this goes back to the SIAC days. So they've been playing this in 3 different conference iterations in terms of what it looks like. And that 22-18, 2 touchdowns, as they were down double digits, 2 touchdowns, I thought was a significant statement. We were in the sweeps. When I say we, that's Mike and I. We allowed Charles to kind of slide down there at times, but he got to work. Somebody got to be and actually work. I'm just saying. We got a chance to watch this game, so I don't want to get your thoughts in terms of the Rattlers. I have them at number 2, but that was impressive. It'll be interesting to see as we'll talk about the next segment in terms of the number 1 team, North Carolina Central, playing the number 5 team, Alabama State, which has a chance to make a statement. But in terms of this matchup, Drew, what were your thoughts on it?
Concerning, if after 2 weeks, if I were an investor, I may consider selling off some of my FAMU stock. I'm not going to dump it.
Exactly.
But I may diversify my portfolio if that makes sense.
So I want to know who you're going to diversify it with. I asked that as a follow-up question, but continue your thoughts here.
And let me give you 3 reasons why. Number 1, once again, FAMU put the ball on the ground, which caused them to leave points off the board.
Yeah.
Special teams also gave left points off the board with their special teams. How many times can you rely on Daniel Richardson to be super QB1 and bring you back in the fourth quarter? Not a recipe for a championship season. You'll beat some teams. He's not Patrick Mahomes, where I'm gonna bet on, but even Patrick Mahomes fails at certain points in time. So yeah, I am tremendously concerned about what's going on. Once again, FAMU gave up a lot on the ground also. So the run defense has got to tighten up if FAMU is going to get back to championship, remain at championship level. Because one thing that the Dark Cloud defense has done in the past has been making teams one-dimensional. They are not doing that right now. Luckily, FAMU has played 2 teams that rely heavily on their run, being South Carolina State, be that Norfolk State. What's going to happen when the scripts get flipped and you have teams that have more pass-friendly offense. I'm interested to see what happens.
Exactly.
Yeah, AD Drew is always pessimistic, but I like the way he breaks it down. And I think there's some points there, but I'm going to go to Charles because Charles is like, man, I've never seen somebody with a victory, 2 victories on the leg.
Oh my goodness. Rattler fans, can you get off the edge, please? This is week 2. We've seen this team championship DNA show up. They know how to close the show. And that is the thing that I take away from this win. I mean, look at the juxtaposition of this. We took a look at 2 teams, Clark Atlanta and Texas Southern, that are in the process of learning how to finish out games. That FAMU team, the thing that scares me most about them is when the lights are the brightest, when their back is up against the wall, and you got to strike again. Listen, they actually do it. So, I mean, why are we diversifying the portfolio? That's a championship caliber team. They win it.
While we talking about diversifying the portfolio, let me follow up with this, Drew, and I want all of y'all to get in here. I think you kind of gave some cheat notes on this. But talking about stocks, Bulls up, Bears down. Sticking with you, Charles, and I'm coming back to Mike and then you, Drew. Out of these 3 teams, where is your stock? Bears up, Bulls down. Or of these 3, which one do you think has the highest stock? Because I think you all probably saying all these are up. Clark Atlanta with their victory over Fort Valley State. Delaware State with their win, as we talked about earlier, over Sacred Heart Pioneers. And then you had Texas Southern win over Prairie View and Panthers. Charles, stocks up, Bears down. Which one do you got the highest?
I think when you have a quarterback like David Wright, you're going into some ball games with some high confidence. So my stock is definitely going to be up for the Clark Atlanta Panthers.
Mike, what direction you going?
Oh, I echo that. Clark Atlanta Panthers by sure. The stock is up.
I agree. AD Drew, you can answer that and then respond to Charles in terms of your stock, selling some of your stock in FAMU. Go ahead, Drew.
While I'm bullish on all 3 of them, I am probably the most bullish on Delaware State right now.
It's fascinating.
They're doing it with their run game. They're doing it with their defense. So even against an FBS Hawaii, their defense and their run game kept them in their game. It's just that the body clocks finally caught up with them, which is why that score wound up a little bit more one-sided than it really was. If that's a 7 o'clock kick on East Coast time, I think that game is a lot different. Plus the fact that Delaware State, only 5 games really count on Delaware State's schedule, while Clark Atlanta has to get through an 8-game conference schedule. Same thing with Texas Southern. They have to get through an 8-game conference schedule. So the one that has the potential to rise the most is Delaware State. And getting back to Charles's question, yeah, FAMU may have that championship pedigree, that championship DNA, but is it because FAMU knows how to close games, or the 2 opponents that they have not learned how to close games out yet? What happens when they play? What happens when they play at Jackson State? Who knows how to close out games? What happens? Alabama State, who's been known to fumble the ball away. What happens if they were to play at North Carolina Central, who knows how to close out games? Howard almost closed out their game in the Celebration Bowl last year. What happened with this iteration of Howard? So that's why I'm concerned. If the 2 opponents that they played have not had their pedigree where they know how to close out games versus FAMU.
Good stuff. One more question in this segment. We'll go to our last segment and we'll focus on the games of today to close out this week. But I'm going to ask you a couple of questions on some teams that I want to get your thoughts on. I'm going to go with you, Charles, and Mike in regards to FCS major division programs. And Drew, I'm going to take you down for one of the Division II programs. So work with me on these and let me know what you think. Charles, I'm going to start with you. I want to get your thoughts in terms of the Tennessee State win over Mississippi Valley. Not that they won, but they dominated in that matchup. Mississippi Valley State scored late, really all of their points, if you would, in that 4th quarter. But number 11, Tennessee State Tigers go to 1-0. defeat number 19 Mississippi Valley State Delta Devils that followed 0-0, 41-21. Give me some basic thoughts on that matchup. And Mike, I'm gonna ask you about the Morgan State matchup over Hampton. Go ahead, Charles.
I mean, I think when you take a look at it, it was a dominant performance from Tennessee State. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more from Mississippi Valley. That was a little surprising. I mean, because I thought they had a starting quarterback who, and Tajarian Williams, who I assumed would be a little bit more in the flow of the game, but he was only 4 of 11 passing for 30 yards. And Valley ended up using 3 different quarterbacks. So that's not a good thing, especially when I thought Tajarian Williams was sort of going to take that next step. I wanted this game to be a little bit closer, but Tennessee State did what they had to do. It was a dominant performance in regards to Draylon Ellis, 357 yards in the air. That's huge.
Good stuff. And as I come to you, Mike, with that Morgan State matchup over Hampton, Drew, I'm going to ask you to either pick between one of these two. One will be a win in the SIAC, and the other one will be a loss. Miles at number 5 falls to 0-1 with a tough non-conference loss to West Alabama Tigers, 16-15. Or you can talk about the win of Edward Waters coming from behind to defeat Morehouse, 28-11. Before we do that, Mike, I want to get your thoughts on this Morgan State matchup as they got it done. Everybody kind of had one eye on Morgan. I have them as high as ranked as number 6. They defeat Hampton Pirates, who many people thought had probably one of the best quarterbacks coming back at the major division level, but there was a coaching change, and we know how that tends to affect things. 30-28, they had a double-digit lead late in that game. Hampton scored a touchdown late to kind of close things up. But what were your thoughts about Morgan State going on the road and getting it done against the Hampton Pirates?
Well, first thing that surprised me, I looked at this game kind of with a side eye. I thought actually, to be honest, I thought Hampton would come out with a victory since it was on the road. I gave them kind of home field advantage. Morgan State surprised me in that they were able to run the ball relatively well. So, I mean, they were kind of balanced. They had 55, rushing attempts, versus, so many, what it was like only 8 passing. So, balance is certainly off from that. They were more rushing heavy then. They held the ball for 43 minutes versus Hampton only holding the ball for 22 minutes, give or take. So they held the ball for twice as long. They controlled the clock. They controlled the game. They had a halftime lead, and they were able to, for the most part, maintain it, except in the third quarter when Hampton rallied back. The other thing is the quarterback Smith for Morgan. He only had about 80 yards. You typically expect more of the quarterback. So while it was a tough win on the road, I'll put quotes on it and say it's a tough win. But I think I'm going to need to see a little bit more from Morgan State before I say, all right, they're a bona fide, top 5. I'd keep them in the top 10. But I didn't see enough other than that they could run the ball really well. They could capitalize on turnovers, and that's what seemed to hurt Hampton. But, let's hold the press on that little bit. Put your anointing oil just away for a second on Morgan State.
Hey, you know what, Mike? The thing that jumped out for me, Morgan State only averaged 16.1 yard in terms of scoring last year. They put up 30, so I had to really look and see, like, what happened? How did they get 30? That 30 from Morgan State. That kind of blew
if they can do anything like that with that defense, you think they'll be all right. I know Mike don't want to buy the stock now, but I'm saying Bulls up. With that, AD Drew, which direction you want to go with? The Miles Golden Bears' tough loss on the road at West Alabama, or the victory by Edward Waters over Morehouse? I think you're muted there, Drew.
I'm actually have to go with the Edward Waters Morehouse game
because
I actually had the opportunity to catch a lot of that game. And the word of the day for that game was sloppy. Both teams turned the ball over a lot. Don't have the final stats in front of me, but I do know for a fact Morehouse threw 5 interceptions in that game. but they were still in the game.
Wow.
Morehouse scored. Their defense scored one. It was either the defense or the special team scored one touchdown, and they got two safeties. When the last time we seen two safeties in a college football game by the same team? Kind of hard to do.
It's head scratcher.
Coach Keaton says he don't know players' names. I'm gonna give him a name to go ahead and put up on the board so for when they play Edward Waters. You better figure out the name Johnny Jones and figure out why Morehouse left him so wide open, because he was the offense for Edward Waters yesterday. So I don't know who's throwing him the ball, but I sure know who's on the back end of the receptions for Morehouse for Edward Waters, as he accounted for a couple of their touchdowns and a chunk of their yards offensively. So, but Edward Waters, a team that we were so bullish on coming into the season, they are hold right now. I got to see better out of Edward Waters, or I may have to put them on the market and see what I can get out of them if I see another performance like this in week 2.
Man, boy, you talking about a group of gambler in New York Stock Exchange. AD Drew not playing with folks. He's trading stocks up and down. He's planning on winning. Everybody else may not be in Atlanta. Yeah, everybody else may not be in Atlanta for the Celebration Bowl, but I'll be damned if AD Drew is not going to be there in terms of where his stock is going, because he's going to make sure he has the right one. With that being said, let me give a shout out to Winston-Salem Rams, the Fighting Gators, as Charles has nicknamed them. I love it. They defeat Bluefield State 34-3 as they go to 1-0, and Bluefield State, Big Blue, falls to 0-1. We'll take our last break. We'll come back and we'll have a final 10-minute segment to look at some key games and matchups today to get you set for your close of your Labor Day weekend. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this last break.
At AutoMasters LLC, our mission is to serve our community by providing quality automobiles at affordable prices. All of our vehicles are inspected and certified to offer you the confidence in knowing you have a quality vehicle. Our goal is to provide you with a seamless process and positive experience for your automobile purchase. Financing recommendations and specific vehicle inquiries are available at your request. You can find us at www.automasters06.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Also, please feel free to contact Terrence Miles at 601-927-7794. And oh yeah, tell him Sonia sent you.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
Hey, grab me one too.
Charmin Ultra Soft has so much cushiony softness, it's hard for your family to remember they can use less.
Sweet pillows of softness.
This is soft.
Holy Charmin. Oh, excuse me. Roll it back, everybody. Sorry.
Charmin Ultra Soft is so cushiony soft, you'll want more, but it's so absorbent, you can use less, so it's always worth it.
Now, what did we learn about using less?
You gotta roll it back, everybody.
We all go, why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
Before we get into these matchups today, I want to remind everybody that follows us, you can check out the game. If you would, go ahead and put it on ESPN, turn the volume down, and listen to us as we will do the radio play-by-play. You can catch it right here on my JBN, various social media platforms that we all send that to. So that's Twitter, X, Instagram. You can follow all those. You can even do it from our perspective on Inside the HBCU Sports Lab and follow it on Facebook. And then we'll have it later for you on demand in regards to YouTube. But follow Jericho on my JBN 1 BCSN. You can check it out to make sure you get the broadcast in terms of our voice and you get all the insights. So I want to make sure I did that. Support us so we can support you. With that being said, let's get in these three matchups today. I'm going to start with you, Drew, in terms of this Virginia State versus, and that's number 2 Virginia State versus number 6 Benedict in this CIAA SIAC matchup. I know everybody at that level doesn't necessarily get between these matchups of conferences, but you know me, I love it. It's a 5 p.m. Central Time kickoff that's on the NFL Network, Hall of Fame Classic. If that matchup, I think it's 3 versus 5. It should be 3. With that being said, 80, Drew, what's your thoughts in terms of this matchup?
Speaking of cross conferences, Doc, CIAA did have the only victory on the Division II side in a non-conference matchup as Virginia Union mollywopped Kentucky State on yesterday.
Right.
BAC had 2 victories with Delaware State and Morgan, and the SWAC did not have a victory, nor the SIAC had a victory in a non-conference matchup on yesterday. But getting to today's
you already
game,
counting out your FAMU victory over South Carolina State?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Come on now.
I don't know why my mind was
Come on now.
on that one.
Come on, Drew.
I know
They are in the SWAC now.
My goodness.
They are in the SWAC now.
And the bad part is, I rehearsed that in my head about 5 times coming in, and I still got it wrong.
You know I had to get you. It's all good, but go ahead.
Yeah. Getting back to this game today, Benedict. I wonder what Benedict's going to put on the field, because I swear I saw all of Benedict's returning players in Tallahassee on yesterday. So I'm really curious as to see what kind of product Benedict is going to put out there against Dr. Henry Frazier and Virginia State, who does have a little bit of camaraderie as they're bringing a lot of their players back. So that's going to be what I am going to be looking for. How quickly this new version of the Benedict Tigers is going to mesh. Is it going to take it to the third and the fourth quarter for them to get together? Will they even get it together in this first game? That's what I'm going to be looking for in that particular matchup.
I'm going to stick with you, Drew, on another CIAA SIAC matchup. I wouldn't be remiss with Tuskegee. I have it number 8. Johnson C. Smith is number 22, and a lot of people saw that as low. Many people believe they could be in the top 14, if you would. So I'm intrigued about this one. Red Tails Classic, ESPNU, 6 o'clock. Drew, what are your thoughts on that?
Coach Maurice Flowers of Johnson C. Smith is 2-0 in the Red Tails Classic. Both of those victories coming when he was at Fort Valley. Tuskegee, 1-2 in the Red Tails Classic. Both of their losses coming to who? Coach Maurice Flowers when he was coaching at Fort Valley. So it's going to be interesting to see what's happening. Questions at quarterback for Tuskegee against the Johnson C. Smith team, who was the representative in the Florida Beach Bowl. Tuskegee, what is their identity going to be? Are they going to be a pass-heavy team? Former quarterback as a head coach, Aaron James did a lot of good things when he was playing quarterback at Tuskegee. But Aaron James is not playing quarterback for Tuskegee anymore. He's got a new crop of athletes. So I really want to see what kind of identity Tuskegee has. Are they going to be a little bit more run focused, or are they still going to try to sling the ball all over the yard? And we're not talking about a Tuskegee team that was a bad team last year. They were 6-2 last year, had preseason conference player of the year on defense and Michael King. So it's going to be a real interesting matchup there.
Certainly. You talking about Bulls up. We have the battle of the the Golden Bulls and the Golden Tigers. So I'm fascinated about the nicknames as well in terms of this. I'm going to get all three of you out of here on this matchup. I want everybody to break it down. I'm going to start with you, Mike, which is a top 5 matchup. It's, to me, the game of the week in a lot of ways just because the predicted order of finish. And people wants to know, are these two teams cracked up to what they are? We have the top 5, top 7 matchup, top 6 matchup, if you would, at the mid-major level. We just broke down was number 2, Virginia State versus number 6, Benedict, and that's the Trojans versus the Tigers. But this one is a MEAC-SWAC matchup. The SWAC is up to an early 2-0 lead over the MEAC. The Eagles have a chance to save face a little bit for the early season matchups between MEAC and SWAC as they come in at number 1. Preseason number 1, so they have that on their neck. Hadn't heard about the rat poison on this one yet, but with that being said, they were predicted preseason number 1 coming out of the MEAC, and they face off against preseason number 1 in the Eastern Division. What I have number 5 ranked, the Alabama State Hornets. Fascinating between this matchup. Mike, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. I think it's odd that if you look at the odds, I think Vegas has Central to winning this game by 10, 11 points. However, I look at the defense, and Alabama State has 3-4 players, first team defense. So a couple of players to watch: Traquan Thomas, DeMarcus Cunningham. And then you look at the rankings, and you look at the listings for Central defense. Nobody came in as preseason, so that's one data point. Number 2, Central is very balanced, but I'm gonna give this one and go just based on what I see on paper on defense. I'm gonna give this one to Alabama State.
Fascinating. Charles, what direction are you going, and what do you say about this Orange Blossom Classic today? That's the Denny's Orange Blossom Classic in Miami Gardens, Florida.
Yeah, this is a fascinating game. It's a prove-it-to-me game for both teams because from an Alabama State perspective, I know they have defense, but offensively, what are they going to do? And to be honest with you, the trend line, when you take a look at some of these SWAC games, is the quarterback play has been kind of meh. And I know teams are playing up, but I think there might be one quarterback who threw for over 200 yards this past week. So that's just something that you kind of pay attention to. What can Alabama State do offensively? And I pose this question. I mean, Davis Richard was a once-in-a-decade type quarterback. Not too many people remember who the quarterback was post superstar quarterback. I mean, if I gave somebody a pop quiz, you can't tell me who played after Steve McNair. If I gave a pop quiz, you can't tell me who played after Casey Terrio at Jackson State. Same thing, the story has been written. Who's the quarterback who played after Shedeur Sanders? So that becomes the question for North Carolina Central. Offensively, no Davis Richard or Mookie Collier. What can Walker Harris bring to the table? So the trend line is the team that plays probably the best defense and stops the run and can find something offensively will win this game. And for that reason, I'm going to go with Alabama State. Let's see what they get done in this game.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Close it out with you, Drew, in terms of this matchup. What are your thoughts? You can't get much better than this. Top 5 matchups between the rival conferences. What do you say in terms of everybody's anticipation of the year, potentially for the Hornets and the Eagles, starting here in the Denny's Orange Blossom Classic in Miami Gardens, Florida?
While Charles talks about quarterback play and defense and the concerns that a lot of people have with their quarterbacks this year, early in the season, I'm concerned not only in this matchup, but all three matchups of today with the special teams. The one common thing I saw from every game that I watched yesterday, every game was either won or lost or via a play on special teams, or the game was made competitive because of a misplay on special teams. So that's what I am going to be focused on today, especially when it comes to Alabama State, because under the Eddie Robinson era of Alabama State, we have seen Alabama State give away games due to a snafu with their special teams. While I agree Alabama State should win this game, will the special teams from Alabama State be the difference, especially when you're talking about two teams playing on a neutral site, which means both teams have their travel roster. Did somebody get left at home that should have been on the special teams because of you going with your travel roster? That's what I'm going to be focused on today as I call this game.
Great insight by everybody here. We'll close it out right there. Again, let me remind everybody to check us out as we give the BCSN radio version, and check us out this year as we'll be doing BCSN events, doing some live pre-game things and of that nature, while you'll be able to listen to the audio version of the entire game. We kick off providing some pre-game talk at 2 p.m. Eastern. That is 1 p.m. Central. The game, it will be played at 3 p.m. Eastern and 2 p.m. Central. So you check us in an hour early. Let me know your thoughts on that. With that being said, thank you for listening inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports on our first Sunday version of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Shout out to BJ Jones. He's on the road. Joshua Sims Sr. is actually eating breakfast with the North Carolina Central Eagles down there, and that's why they couldn't be on the show. They'll be back on their regular time to give us some insights as well. So we'll see if the pep talk that Joshua Sims Sr. provides will work or not. So we're going to put a lot of weight on him. If they come out with the victory, it's because of Joshua Sims Sr. If they come out with the loss, it's because of Joshua Sims Sr. He did not voice himself appropriately at breakfast, getting things ready for them.
I hope he hears this.
Exactly. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. I should have had Mike Washington in the locker room for a third week. I had AD Dr. Granger in the locker room for Texas Southern. You sold
exactly.
Me. I win either way, but I'm just saying. For Charles, for Mike, Charles, you see what happens. What happens when you don't put these people to work. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, every Tuesday and Thursday, 6 o'clock Central Standard Time, as well as Sunday at 9 o'clock p.m. Look for us to start spreading the love. We'll have multiple days over the weeks where we'll have versions of Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with people coming on as guests. So you'll be able to catch us on Mondays, Wednesdays, and or Fridays throughout the week over the next couple of weeks as we do our normal spot on Tuesday and Thursday. With that being said, I need to make sure Charles gets his coffee as well as Mike. So I apologize for keeping them up over a little bit because they had a late one sticking with me. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Shout out to the 1876 Athletic Foundation. They did a thing yesterday.
Tremendous.
All those folks, Roland, Joe Clay, and the ladies that joined us to help get it done. It was fantabulous. Thank A.D. Drew for doing what he does. He's the best in the business of supporting us all. Utility man, unlike any other. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter, X, Facebook, and YouTube is Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. And the best in the business, Roy Evans, in terms of making all the ship work. Dream big, continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles.
Of course.
Mike.
Lecture.
A.D. Drew.
I'm not going to do a Kendrick, y'all. Dismissed.
Shout out to Kendrick.
Say, man, say it like you mean it next time, AD.
Dismissed.